Iran vows retaliation after Trump ordered a military strike on the country. Here it is.
The objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
All right, put up the Trump post. We have some things to dissect about this war. Trump said, we have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now it's time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now it's time for peace. It's really interesting, isn't it? To those who voted for Trump, you said Trump was the president who would not bring us into wars. But a few months in, we are smack a dab in the middle of a war. You said that Trump couldn't negotiate. As a matter of fact, Trump made multiple posts talking about how President Obama would go to war with Iran because he didn't know how to negotiate, that he was a weak leader. However, the only one who Netanyahu has convinced to go to war with Iran that sits or has sat in that presidency is Trump. Trump is foolish if he believes that retaliation from Iran means peace. What he's doing is he's selling you a bill of goods as he has done from day one. What he's doing is telling you that it's raining when really he's pissing on you. What he's doing is creating a false sense of security, talking about peace while the other nation that he just bombed is talking about retaliation. That's what's happening. It all began just after midnight when Secretary Hicks joined U.S. President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and elite Pentagon staff in the Situation Room at the White House to watch as a fleet of aircraft departed an American air base in rural Missouri. Under the cover of darkness, B-2 stealth bombers took off from Whiteman Air Force Base at 001, according to the Pentagon. According to Bibi Netanyahu, Iran has been trying to develop nuclear weapons for over 20 years. And every couple of years, Netanyahu makes a case as to why Iran needs to be obliterated, basically. He makes this case every time. And every time he makes a case, it never happens. We don't see what he says is there. As a matter of fact, we still don't have the proof that any of this is legit, meaning the reason why they did it, just as we had virtually no proof when they ran up in Iraq and said Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. Are they running up into Kim Jong-un's territory? I think not. This is a preset dynamic already in the works prior to Trump ever becoming president of the United States. Netanyahu just needed a patsy. He needed somebody who would do his bidding. Trump is the useful idiot in this point. According to 4-star General Dan Caine, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The mission consisted of an 18-hour flight, each way, multiple midair refuelings, and a series of decoys. At around 5 p.m. Eastern Time Saturday, just as bombers were entering Iranian airspace, a submarine launched more than 24 Tomahawk missiles at the Isfahan nuclear site. The mission involved more than 125 aircraft and resulted in 75 precision-guided weapons being dropped on 3 locations, officials said. And they emphasized that this attack was against Iran's nuclear program, not against its military or people. That's an interesting distinction, right? So if somebody decides to bomb U.S. assets and say, hey, this isn't a war against the military or the people, we're just bombing U.S. assets for war, nobody would make nor welcome that distinction. But it is interesting that we make that distinction when launching attacks against other countries. Some sources are saying there's no intel. Let's get into that. So Trump's attack on Iran was based on vibes. Yeah. Just months ago, Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, testified to Congress in her opening statement that the U.S. intel community, quote, continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, not building a nuclear weapon, and had not reauthorized its nuclear weapons program. There is no intel, says one of the officials who were granted anonymity to discuss sensitive matters. Quote, nothing new that I'm aware of. The president is protecting the United States and our interests, but the intelligence assessments have not really changed from what they were before, meaning there is no new there. Nothing has changed. Netanyahu has made this case over and over again, and the only one that was dumb enough to fall for it was President Donald Trump. His own military. There's no new intelligence. His own intelligence director. There's no new information. Rolling Stone reports. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat, who sits on the Foreign Relations Committee, confirmed Saturday night that American intelligence assessments on Iran have not changed. Quote, I was briefed on the intelligence last week. Iran posed no imminent threat of attack of the United States. End quote. He wrote on social media, quote, Iran was not close to building a deliverable nuclear weapon. End quote. Trump did not claim on Saturday that he launched the attacks because Iran was close to having a nuclear weapon. As he has suggested earlier in the week, quote, I think they were very close to having one, end quote, the president said Tuesday, as he disputed his own intelligence director's testimony to Congress, Ms. Gabbard. U.S. officials, all right, so Iran threatened terror attacks inside of the U.S. if strikes ordered against their nuclear facilities, which are developing for power, according to the narrative. Iran threatened terror, here it is.
Just in, that Iran directly threatened America?
Tom, tonight NBC News has learned that message from Iran was conveyed to President Trump by an intermediary during last week's G7 summit, warning the president if he launched airstrikes against Iran's nuclear facilities, Iran could respond by unleashing terrorist attacks on the U.S. by activating sleeper cells it has inside this country, according to 2 U.S. officials.
That means if it's true that the president of the United States had inside information, and that inside information was, if you decide to bomb our military assets, we have sleeper cells in the United States of America, and they're going to be activated if you decide to do this. That's inside information because we didn't know about this information. If that story is true, Donald Trump knew about that information. Trump orders the attack. No other United States president has done so. He decides to do it. Almost as if He wants the showdown and could care less about the American casualties that could be involved. Did he warn Americans about sleeper cells as other presidents have done prior to engaging in war? No. Did he seek the approval of Congress as required by the United States Constitution? No. At some point, Democrats, you got to start talking impeachment, and hopefully there are a few Republicans who still got enough spine to deal with it and to do the right thing. This is illegal. It's unconstitutional. It's unfathomable. Iran has vowed to reserve all options, as they put it. Trump wanted Iranian retaliation against U.S. assets will be met with even greater force. He warned will be met with even greater force than what was unleashed today. So Qatar closes its airspace, report says Iran could target U.S. bases. So Qatari officials temporarily suspended flights in the country's airspace to ensure the safety of citizens, residents, and visitors. According to a Google translation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, Qatar is doing so as a part of a precautionary measure taken after the U.S. strikes on Iran. Earlier today, the U.S. Embassy in Qatar issued a shelter-in-place order, quote, out of an abundance of caution. Iran has launched at least 10 missiles toward U.S. bases in Qatar and one toward Iraq. An Israeli defense official confirmed to our monitor. Qatar hosts the largest U.S. military presence in the Middle East, with more than 8,000 troops stationed at Al Udeid Air Base outside of the capital, Doha. The U.S. military maintains a presence in Ain al-Assad Air Base in Iraq's Anbar province. Explosions were heard over the Qatar capital, according to both agents, France Press, and Reuters. A statement from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, published by Tasnim News, said Iran launched a, quote, powerful and devastating missile attack on the Al Udeid base in Qatar. The IRGC described the strikes as a, quote, clear and explicit message to the White House, warning that Iran, quote, will not leave any attack on its territorial integrity, sovereignty, will not leave any attack on its territorial integrity, sovereignty, or national security unanswered under any circumstances. Trump. Is he making America great again? At this point, what promise has he not broken? For those who voted for Trump, what promise has he not broken? He tanked your economy. He's destroying your labor market. He's killing your economic ability to invest and to advance. He has now put us smack dab in the middle of a war. Are your schools better? Are your streets safer? He said he was going to arrest the worst criminals among us, undocumented individuals. He's arresting college students, PhD, doctoral students, and individuals who are going to high school volleyball practice. That's what he's doing. All right, Rickey, thoughts here?
Yeah, Dr. Richey, Democrats are off on messaging and, and Republicans, I don't know if there's any moderate Republicans anymore because everybody's afraid of being primary. That's why, I'm always been a fan of serving one term so we can get people in Congress and the Senate to do the right thing, because now people are worried about being primary, and if I don't agree with Donald Trump or whatever, I'm going to lose my seat. And I don't know. I think that we're headed into World War III because this thing can go downhill really quick. And then our sons and daughters or whatever, have to sit up here and be in the draft and get sent over to fight a war. Donald Trump kids not going to fight, in a war for sure. Right. It's always, and you're absolutely right about everything that has happened, since he's been in the country. And all of this stuff would have been avoided if the country wasn't so sexist and racist, because you didn't want to see a black woman become president of the United States. And so you get what you pay for or whatever. And I'm saying this to all the people that voted for Trump and all the people that sat at home and didn't vote and didn't care and then clowned us for supporting Kamala Harris. So that's what it is. I can talk all day about this or whatever, but I think that we slowly falling under a dictatorship because Democrats have no spine and no messaging. Republicans, they have no spine. Nobody's going to stand up to Donald Trump. And if this war jumps off or whatever, he's going to be about as powerful, if not more powerful, than George W. Bush during the Iraq war.
There you go. And ironically, even as much disagreement existed then, there was still democracy. There was still civility in politics. Those things are starting to become no more.
And they're not going to impeach nobody.
Right.
I don't see that. No matter how mad they get, I think they'll be intimidated by their constituents and the country. It's just so messed up. I don't see it happening. Yeah, that would be the right thing to do, but will they do it?
And you may actually have the public on your side this time. All right, we'll see. Updates will come.